What is going on, everybody? PHX here. Thank you for stopping by. And in today's video, we are going to be going over another hybrid DPS skill build that I conjured up and wanted to see how well it performed in Title Update 15, along with Countdown and other heroic solo missions. Using a control point, stuff of that nature, see how viable it actually was. And you know what? It really did not disappoint. I love making these types of builds. So if you guys like these builds, if you guys like the videos that I am putting out regarding hybrid builds, and you want to see certain builds and see how well they perform, definitely leave a comment down in the section below and let me know what you want for the next build. We could do DPS and tank, we could do skill build and tank, we could do another DPS and skill build with maybe more skills rather than DPS. It's all dependent. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys. Go ahead and leave your comments down in the section below and let me know what build you would like to see next. It can range from anything from, having a full yellow or having a hybrid of yellow and green. It doesn't really matter. But okay, let's go ahead and let's just get started with the build. So the first thing that we are running is a specialization, is the survivalist specialization. Now we are running the survivalist specialization because of the protection from elites. That 10% protection from elites will come in handy, especially because with this build you are running glass cannon, and with that, when you are negating at least 50% of the damage from elite enemies, it comes in handy pretty well. For our primary weapon, we are running the mechanical animal. On this one, we have a 98K 720 RPM with a 50 round mag. It is proficient, but it's not fully maxed out, so I am missing a few bits here with assault rifle damage, health damage, but we do have 10% damage to target out of cover, fully maxed. With mechanical animal, you know that it runs feature perfection. Weapon kills grant +1 skill tier for 19 seconds, stacks up to 3 times. Weapon kills at skill tier 6, grant overcharge for 15 seconds. Overcharge cooldown is 90 seconds. Now with this, if you didn't want to run mechanical animal, you could definitely run something like test subject, or you could even run the TKB 408 with future perfect on it as well. The only thing with the TKB 408 is that I would recommend that you run the attack 50 specialization, the sharpshooter specialization, to just get some weapon handling, because the TKB does provide a bit of a kick. And it is it's very noticeable as to where you're not landing your shots when you should be. But with the TKB, we know that it has that 650 RPM with a high total damage. So this one here is 113.9K with a 50 round mag. And I did do a test run on this. Again, it was pretty hard trying to regain control of the recoil of this weapon. So I would recommend that you use something like sharpshooter specialization in order to negate that. Or if you absolutely wanted to, you could run some weapon handling on the on your build if you absolutely wanted to. But when we get into the build, you'll see why there are certain aspects or certain attributes that you want to run instead of something like weapon handling. For your secondary weapon, for me, I was just running capacitor. Capacitor is pretty much only really revolving around your skills. And the thing about this whole build is so that you can have the best of both worlds with your skills and with your weapon. So if you're running a pure skill build, I definitely would say run capacitor, especially if you're using your skills for damage instead of especially if you're running your skills for offensive rather than defensive. Yeah, so in your secondary slot, you can really run whatever. Again, you can run test subject, you run TKB, you can really run whatever suits your needs. For your handgun, you can also run whatever you want. This is the orbit right here, so I'm not going to get really into that. So now let's get into the actual gear set. So with the gear sets, we have kind of a sporadic. We have one set with a 2-piece, and then we've got individual sets as well. So for the mass portion, we are running the Wyvern Wear respirator. Now with this, I re-rolled the skill tier because I was able to have this drop with skill damage and crit damage. Wyvern Wear does give you that 10% skill damage. Re-rolled it to give me 50% weapon damage, maxed out skill damage, crit damage at 10.5%, and then we are running a protection from elites mod. For the chest piece, we are running the Fenris Group AB breastplate. We have 10% assault rifle damage, 50% weapon damage, crit chance, and then skill damage. If you didn't want to run crit chance, you could run crit damage. I would recommend rather run crit damage in order to get those high numbers. But having a little bit of crit chance, it does help to get your crit damage to proc as well. And then we are running the Protection from Elites 12% mod. Glass Cannon, all damage you deal is amplified by 25%. All damage you take is amplified by 50%. You could run the Sacrifice, which is another viable way to run this build. You'll get 15% headshot damage, and then again, pretty much the exact same thing, 50% weapon damage, skill damage, crit damage, and then you just throw on your Protection from Elites mod here. And then you got your Perfect Glass Cannon with 30% and 60% instead of 25 and 50. Now, if you absolutely wanted to, you could also run the Uzina Getica Closer named chess piece. The only problem with this, though, is that you kind of want to keep farming for skill damage and crit damage, and that way you can re-roll your armor talents into weapon damage or a skill tier, however you feel you want to build it. Another thing with this, though, is that even though it does increase your weapon and skill damage by 20% to pulsed enemies, you will be suffering from using one of your skill slots with your pulse. And if that doesn't bother you, then by all means definitely use this rather than using Glass Cannon if you can't afford to run Glass Cannon or you're not very good at using that talent.
Agent in need of backup.
For the holster, we are running the Hannah U Corporation. We are running two pieces of it. So we've got the 10% skill haste, 10% skill damage. We have a skill tier on here. It is proficient with 9.9% skill damage and then 9.5% crit damage as well. For the backpack, again, we're running Hannah U. We got skill tier, crit damage at 12%, skill damage at 7%, and then we are running a Protection from Elites mod, and then we are running Vigilance, increased total weapon damage by 25%. With this, you are actually proccing this better than I anticipated, especially if you're going to be staying in cover. Even though you are running around a lot in Countdown, as long as the aggro is off you and you have your Vigilance up pretty frequently, you really aren't going to notice the difference in the amount of damage that you do output. You could run something like maybe Force Multiplier, or not Force Multiplier, but well, the backpack Force Multiplier, Perfect Combined Arms, but you are losing out on total weapon damage rather than this just skill damage by 30%. So again, it is all up to you. If you really didn't want to risk losing your Vigilance proc the whole time, you could also run one of your skill tiers as a shield. So just keep that in mind as well. For the gloves, we are running Contractor's gloves. Now with this one, even though you are doing the 10% LMG damage, you are getting that damage to armor, which comes in very handy, especially for your veteran and your elite mobs. And then we also have skill damage. Now, if you absolutely wanted to, and you didn't want to run a skill tier, you could just run a pure Contractor's gloves, a full DPS, just as you see here, and then that will suffice as well. You just lose out on that skill tier. Or if you wanted to, you could run a piece of wyvernware in your glove slot and then run a different type of mask. And then we'll get into a different variation that I'll show you where this will come in handy. And then lastly, for the knee pads, we are running Fox's Prayer, so we are getting that 8% damage to target out of cover with skill damage, and then 13.9% weapon damage along with 10% rifle damage as well. Even though the Overlord armaments doesn't matter too much, you're really running this just because of the damage to target out of cover. So along with the mechanical animal, if you can get that to drop or re-roll it to damage to target out of cover, you should be good to go. So now for another variation of this, what you could do if you absolutely wanted to, and to also help out yourself and your team, is running the Coyote's mask and then running a wyvernware glove set. That way you do have a little more DPS rather than running Contractor's gloves, and you're still able to keep your 3-piece skill tiers here. This is another viable way. Throw on your Protection from Elite mod onto the mask, and you should be good to go. With that being said, this actually does help running solo I ran it for the hard mode with the Manning National Zoo for the Daniels League trial, and I was able to complete the mission in under, I had like about a minute and some change left, some spare time. So this does come in handy and it does help really well. But I mean, so this is another variation that you could possibly use in order for yourself to do as much damage as possible if you absolutely wanted to run a hybrid DPS and skill build. So for your skills, for me, I prefer using the drone, using the striker drone, and then using the seeker mines. Right now I have the defender drone on because I am trying to get that leveled up. And then for the seeker mines, I would rather run the cluster. That way you have a little bit more area of effect rather than just running the explosive seeker mine, even though it does a ton more damage. But again, it's all up to you about what you want to run. This build is really more for the offensive rather than the defensive. So you just got to pick what's going to work for you and what's going to help you out during certain missions and during countdown. Do I recommend this build to run in Legendary Solo on the Summit? Yes, you can use it in Legendary Solo on the Summit. You're just going to have to play extremely careful. Again, you can take out Glass Cannon and then just probably run Spotter, but you will have to find a weapon that will run the link, the laser link, if you wanted to switch over to the Technician. But if you didn't want to, you are going to have to sacrifice one of your skill slots for the pulse. But do I recommend it for Legendary Stronghold missions? Absolutely not. This will not be very viable during a Legendary Stronghold mission unless you are with a group, because it's just, since the Legendary NPCs do so much damage to you, you will get obliterated instantly, especially if you're running Glass Cannon. So, but other than that, guys, that is the build. I had a lot of fun making this build. It was a lot of fun using it in Countdown. You could see the power that comes out of it. It might not feel like a lot, but it's definitely there, especially when you are running solo missions as well, or heroic control points. You could definitely feel the power of this build, especially it being a hybrid. So other than that, guys, that is it. That is all I have for you. I really hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, please go ahead and leave a like on the video. And again, if you want to see more hybrid builds like this, leave your comment in the section below, and I will definitely get to it, and we can go on from there to see what other type of hybrid builds we can come up with. All right, guys, that is it. That's all I have, and I will catch you around in the next video. Take care.